Okay, 2018 Finance Committee, we have 13 people present. Members from last year, members who are from last year who aren't present. But the total comes to 13, which is what the maximum number is that we are allowed to have by the mandate. No, not the mandate. The ordinance, thank you. Okay, what I'm looking for in the Finance Committee is a group of people who will gather information for the town. That means you go to meetings. You have to be attending meetings. And if you're not attending meetings, then you're going to be asked to step off the committee. Because it is simply not fair to the other members on the committee who are attending meetings to try to keep you up to date. Does that mean that you have to be at every single meeting? No. But it does mean that you cannot regularly miss a meeting. Is that clear? Everybody understands that there's a significant commitment of time, particularly in December and January when we're beginning to pull this all this information. When you are beginning to pull all this information together. Okay. The other thing that I'm looking for is I don't want to use the word decent. I want to use the word cooperative and willingness to listen to what's being presented. Okay? The school, the town, the CIP, the fire department, the police department are all going to come and present information. They have had budgets in the past. They're going to be looking for improvements in their budgets from their standpoint. I expect that you're going to look at their proposals and think carefully about what they're asking for on this end and realize that if we had all the money in the world, we'd fund that. But we don't. And that's the other side of this. There's a responsibility to the town and understanding how to bring those components together for an operating budget that things can still move forward in the town of Weare and we can make progress in the areas that they're asking for. It is a difficult task that you're signing up for. It is not easy. But we have done it in the past. Sorry. You have done it in the past. See, when I say we, I'm thinking that I'm going to be involved in much of any of this. And that's not the case. You're going to be doing all of the heavy lifting. I get involved when there's an issue. And I come in and I listen to what's going on and I try to resolve it the best I can. So, with that in mind, and the understanding that we're going to deal with people in the community with respect and dignity, and these meetings are going to be open to the public, and there are going to be, as with all the committees, there are going to be opportunities for the public to speak and ask questions, and then then you can move forward with whatever other business that you have, wherever you put the public comment section in your meeting. I don't expect that you're going to use your position on the Finance Committee as a platform for personal points of view by saying, as a member of the Finance Committee, because by doing that, you're not acting in concert with what the Finance Committee has asked you to do, unless the Finance Committee as a total has voted and has approved your speaking on behalf of the Finance Committee. The Weare Code of Ethics, if you could take a look at that. You need to print your name and sign it and date it. And I have copies for people who would like to go home with one. Yeah, I wrote it for myself. That one? Mm-hmm. Respect is going to be something that you're going to have to make sure that you apply whenever you're dealing with. I would expect you to be respectful of anybody, but if you're dealing with another committee or you're dealing with another town body, I would expect that you would be respectful. They have worked long and hard on their proposals, on their budgets, and they deserve at least the acknowledgement that that time has been put in, even if you totally disagree with it, from the point of view that you feel that more money should be applied to it. That was a minor joke.
I wasn't sure if you were meaning that or not.
I don't know, there's an issue about confidentiality, and I'm not expecting that this board or committee would go into non-public session. You don't deal with personnel matters from the point of view of evaluation or what, and maybe somebody can clarify that for me, but I just don't see there would be a need. As far as confidential information that you acquire, boy, that's, I think you would be, that you would need to be conscientious about that, that there are some things that you wouldn't talk about from the point of view of the developing budget, because that's not a finalized situation. And by talking about those pieces of development, it may cause a problem for that collaborative effort to jointly develop the budget. And I expect, of course, that you're going to be honest. And I have no reason to think that you wouldn't be. Any questions? You are going to establish your officers. And I would suggest, because we have a person who is not here tonight and who really, I think, deserves, from his time serving Weare, deserves to be considered, that we not elect or select officers tonight, but that you consider a temporary sort of situation. I know Lori has been very helpful to me pulling the people together this summer, and Bill has been very helpful in that matter, getting out all the emails and confusions that I decide that I provide him with, what information that I choose to send him.
Bill handles everything beautifully.
Yeah,
He's unflappable.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm sure I can see him at home getting the emails from me going, biting his tongue.
No.
John, you've seen
I
some of our
swallowed it a
meetings,
month
you
ago.
know what we have like, for God's sake.
Very good.
The man is extremely patient with all of us.
I'm married for 45 years. I know patience.
That's on camera, and it's
It's all right. It's all right.
it's all right. It's
My
all
wife
right.
doesn't quit.
She will watch this one.
We'll send her an email.
Oh, sorry.
You will decide the date of the meeting. We are trying to follow the vote from last March, where all efforts will be made to record and get the meeting publicized. So the date of the meeting is up to the committee. I know that Bill is unavailable on Tuesdays. That I've heard, but I'm sure you'll all work that out. So,
Question for you.
question for me.
When we're doing postings, I know Naomi and I have talked, it's down at the post office, it's posted here. We try to make sure it's on the town calendar. But we do have people that would like it on Facebook. Could we put it on the town
Facebook page,
cable? The website, but the notification down in front of the town hall.
Oh, the
And
board.
legally, you only have to post it in, how many places, Naomi? 2. There is a limit to how much time one can run around posting everything everywhere.
Yeah,
So that is why we traditionally stick to here, to the post office, and I'm not sure who's in charge of the town website. If we want to add the town website, I think that's fine, but 3, Goffstown does 3. There's a limit to how much we
Sure.
can be responsible for posting all
yeah.
over the place.
I might suggest the bank only because it's close to the post office, but I mean, that's up to the committee.
Okay.
I don't know that by posting it in the bank, do you then get into how does that fare for generals, Dimitri's
Right.
or Blackbirds or
I'm thinking, yeah, we'll have a talk about it, but I'm thinking 3 because it becomes down to, well, if you've done it here, then can you do it there? And then you have somebody who's constantly running around putting up notifications, and that
Right.
gets to be old in a hurry.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's fine. And the town sign, I think once we decide, once you decide when you're gonna have your meetings, it might be a good idea that you post that on the town sign in front of the town hall.
which, John, that's usually booked up 2 years in advance.
See? No, it's a great idea. And it can't be done.
There's a chance, but it's
John?
very limited.
You
Yes,
could put it on cable, Channel 6.
yeah. And that's however
Once
you
we
decide you're
decide.
gonna handle that. But I
Yeah,
think,
somebody's gonna have to handle it.
Yeah, Greg.
I think there's enough interest in
Doug does.
town
Doug.
from the number of people that I've talked to. I think there's enough interest in town this year to warrant getting as much of the word out as possible. Not to say that you haven't done that in the past, but I think the greater effort in that area would be a great idea.
Dylan, you do have your own committee page.
We have our, no, you have your own, you have your own committee
Minutes are
page.
there, we can add the agenda to it if you'd like. Yeah.
Does Maureen handle that? Cause who posts the minutes to that? We don't.
Bill
Minutes
sends
afterwards.
them,
No, I send
to
them in.
Mary and I,
I
and one of
put
us.
Maureen on the minutes, the info, and she, when we approve them, then that's the following
And
meeting. But
so-
Maureen gets them, and then she files them, and they appear on the website.
Who posts them onto the website?
magic.
You and
They're
me.
on the website. I get them to Maureen, and they appear on the website.
Who's got that?
You include me.
I do include you, maybe you put them on the
That's
website.
So
Because the agenda's on
that's
there.
another way to post our next meeting will be
Right, but it's required by 2, and one thing, while we do want to enhance this, we don't want to become the committee that is now going to cover the entire town to solve this problem.
No, the committee is, as I believe I said, is to gather information from the different departments. The people in attendance who are coming to the meeting will have an opportunity to speak and ask questions, but it is not incumbent upon the committee to seek out other input, as it were. I think you'll receive that in a natural course of events. But the minute that you start taking information in from the general public, there's a lack of expertise that is developed. In other words, those people generally are not in attendance to the CIP committee meetings.
Correct.
And so they do not have that, and they come to the meeting without that, and you have to keep that in mind. It's an impression, okay? It's sort of like my coming to the selectmen and saying, there's a pothole at the end of Emery Lane, and I expect that that's going to be taken care of right away. It's not a realistic expectation.
Correct.
All my concerns have always been handled in an efficient and appropriate manner. But you will be developing that those recommendations for the town and the town population. Okay?
One thing that we have never done, and I don't think would work for us to do it any more than most committees, because we deal with so many, the school, the high school,
Everybody.
the Board of Selectmen, the CIP. It is not practical for us to go out and run copies and copies and copies of things for the average person to be reviewing everything we do. We can refer them to what board they would like
Nor
to
to
look
members of the committee, I would say,
Yes.
who are not in attendance of those meetings.
at.
If those members who can attend a occasional meeting want the information, then they need to go to the department, the school district, John Stark, whomever, and ask for them to provide that information. I don't believe this committee should take it upon themselves to have a secondary set of everything for somebody to come in and say, I need this. I don't think that's, again, we go back to that business of equitable. Is that equitable? Is that fair? No, I don't think so. Any other questions? Lori? I love this dialogue we're having.
Well, we've worked well together for many years now. As you know, each person takes a section, whether it's the Board of Selectmen, the high school, or the middle school, grade
Yep.
school. I think it would be a good thing tonight, even with Neil not being here, we all know where Neil usually goes and puts his time in.
Yep.
That's not going to change with Neil. That we might go ahead and start setting some of that
I
up,
agree.
because the schools are having their meetings.
Yep.
It is important that who's ever on the school starts attending those meetings,
Yep.
because what we're thinking of is, while the heavy lifting doesn't really start until October, November, when the tax rate starts coming forward, we have new people coming on the committee. And I know the first year I was on, I'm sure Keith went through it, and Greg, even Bill, there's a lot of information, you don't always know where you're looking for it. Sue was on the school board. It takes time to figure out what those are, so if we can start bringing in the old copies of things for people to look at and say, how did you arrive at this? What are you comparing at? How do you get there? It starts making them more comfortable with the different section they took. So if they go to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, if they go to the school board, our selectmen operate differently from the school boards in that they will recognize you as a member of the finance committee, and they will take questions from you. They're very good that way. John Stark is getting better that way. A little more difficulty working with the middle school, but we're working on that. And it is important for our people to know that these are the lines, this is how you read the reports, because they're all very different.
Yeah,
And
very
that's
much so.
why we're looking forward to having meetings in September and October to make that transition easier, so you just aren't plopped in, show up in October, start getting these reports, coming to us and saying, okay, what am I looking at?
Right.
It's very,
There's a lot to it,
Yes.
especially the school district budgets are very complex. And there are areas where there are questions that are reasonably asked, and if you don't know where those areas are, you can't ask them. Somebody once told me, it's important to know the things you don't know, and find those things out in order to figure out what it is that you should know, and ask those questions.
because the other part of this is those that are on the Board of Selectmen, those that are the high school, those that are the middle school, Center Woods group. When you come to a meeting for the Finance Committee, we look to you to be giving us this, say the 3 or 4 over here, there's 3 here and 3 here. We're looking at that group to say, okay, we 3 attended these meetings, this is what we got out of it, this is what we see, so that we have, you're giving us a summary review, we're trusting your judgment. The same with the schools, is because some of us are able to make all the meetings, but that's a tough
A lot
shot
of work.
and a lot of information.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of information and pulling that together. And it's great that there are some people who can afford and do that. And with the assignment to a committee, that's going to be the area that you're going to be reporting out on. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, then let's, if you wouldn't mind standing while I do the oath of office. The first time I did this as moderator with the town people in the vote, I read the whole thing complete from beginning to end. And when I finished, they looked at me like, and they could not follow me. Let's see if I can do better this time. I state your complete name. Do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and to the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof. So help me God. Thank you. So, you are now members of the Finance Committee. Thank you very much. At this point, I can wander out the door and see you again. Hopefully not with any difficulty going on in the group. And I expect great things, as I have received every year from the Finance Committee.
Well, we're lucky to have you, because you have weighed in a lot for us.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, I think one more thing we should cover, John.
Yeah?
We are going to be on camera. It is required. It is what we should be doing. It's about transparency.
Yeah?
You did ask me to remind you that you wanted to discuss that.
Okay. Being as old as I am, I have forgotten why. Did I happen to mention that to you?
Yes.
Oh, goody.
It's so important nowadays that we be transparent, because our discussions influence a lot of people.
That's right. Now I remember. The importance of this committee, I can't exaggerate it enough. People rely so heavily on what this Finance Committee recommends. They believe, and rightly so, in what it is that you're doing. And they expect that you are doing the very best that you can to sort out a very complex situation with a lot of information and presenting it to them. It's critical for us to be transparent, for that trust to be maintained.
And transparency means being on camera so people know who we are, when we make a decision,
That's right.
what our decision is based on, and if they hear us saying, well, I don't like this and he doesn't like that, but they're learning how those decisions are made. It is important for them to
Right.
see how we get to where we go.
And I know that there has been real concerns in the past about being on camera. I will leave it up to the Finance Committee to determine its process. But I would expect everyone who is on the Finance Committee to be on camera on the Finance Committee. And that's something that people have got to come to grips with.
Question on that.
Okay.
We are in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, this what it's traditionally called. Right now, on camera, we don't have everybody on camera. If
Right.
we had all 13 here, the logistics are going to be interesting. Naomi, you may have to help us, otherwise we're going to need to, upstairs it's easier to do it, down here it's nice and cool. But getting 13 on, we're going to have to work on that because
I know.
that's important.
Yeah, and the thing that I really am grateful for is the number of people that have come out tonight and who have volunteered to be on the committee. That's what I'm most grateful for. I'm not sure how to manage the structure and get everybody on camera. I don't want to set up a situation where you're having to turn to face the camera if you're in front here. But I think logistically we can work that through. I think that's really something that we're going to have to give some thought to. And I'll talk to Naomi about how to make that happen. 13 is a large number.
Yes.
And it's great. It is great. It should be a real help in the process of going through this coming year with the Finance Committee.
It's crucial because when we start hitting the end of January, beginning of February, and we start talking about deliberative sessions, by the time we hit deliberative session, we've been down to 5.
Yes. It's
We
it's
can't
willowed
have
out.
that anymore.
No, we can't.
You know, we've had a lot of conversations. Is this quorum? Is it not? And
And
to
I
have
have
this
gone.
many people is so important.
I've gone back down into the depths of my soul to find a rationale for continuing at 5. And I continue to come up with, is that a quorum of 9? Yes. Did we start with 9? Yes. We continue. And so we've got 13. If we go below 9, we'll have conversations. But I don't expect that to happen.
John, do you want these returned to you today?
If you could put them onto the clipboard, that'd be great. And I'll pass those along to Bill. Thank you. Oh, pen. Got a pencil. There's a pen. Bill has.
Is this yours?
Yes. Thank you.
No. Yeah. Give them all to them.
You're the collector of things, Bill.
Yeah, that's me again. I should be able to recognize the back of my head by now. Yep. Thank you. Okay, I'm about to bid you all adieu. The accomplishments I think that you should be looking at for tonight would be the interim officers, and to definitely assign tasks, responsibilities. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Okay, first things first. As past chair, let's deal with the interim officers until Neil gets here. One of the biggest and most important jobs in this committee is having somebody who takes minutes and takes them well. Yeah, there's that look. But my nomination would be for Bill because he is amazing at it.
I'll second it.
I suggest we just continue with last year's officers until we have a chance to,
That would be terrific if you're good with that.
I would move.
Except we don't have a vice chairman, so he had to sit out.
We'll get to the vice. If,
Oh, okay.
can I make one adjustment to that? For the vice chair, I nominate Keith Erf. Look at the joy on his face.
It's interim.
Temporary.
And if you would go back to your motion, please, Tom.
Okay, I move that we, until we elect officers, we continue last year's slate with the exception of Keith Earp being the interim. Vice chair.
I'll, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Who are the officers?
I am chair. Matt Whitlock was the co-chair, but you're allowed to serve 2 3-year terms, and then you have to take a year off. This is his year off. Bill is in charge of writing everything down. The sad thing with Matt being gone is Matt did all the writing for the warrant articles as we would vote on things, and he's really good at that. Now it's gonna fall on Bill.
Wait till next year. My years, I sit out next year.
There's a lot of new people, don't forget that.
Well, and the big thing is, it's very important that the new people what?
Don't you introduce yourself?
That's right.
Okay. My name is Lori Davis.
Greg McDowell.
Keith Earth. Bill Anderson.
Seymour.
James Ray. Dennis Hobbin. Tom Flo.
Donna Osborne. Megan Thelen.
Ellen Docton.
Tammy Hagman.
And this is your finance committee with the exception of Neil Kirk, who's traveling. He'll be back sometime in September. But a big part of this committee, next year you have 4 people going off the committee. So it's very important that if there's any questions for those of you that are coming on for the first time, that we make sure that we give you all the information to help, because we're not going to be here. And there'll be 4 new people to take our places, which means a big shift for, you'll have a lot of new people. So it's very important that we make sure that this goes smoothly. And that's one of the reasons why we're starting as early as we are, and we're looking to have that meeting in September and that meeting in October. We're lucky to have different people in our wheelhouse this year. Tom was a Board of Selectmen. He's going to bring a different perspective, and that's good. We need different perspectives. I'm not sure, you are a teacher?
No, I'm not.
You're not, are you?
No, I'm an accountant.
Okay. But you said school's starting.
My kids start school tomorrow. I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
get them ready to go to school.
Okay.
They're 7 and 8, and there were a little bit of tears.
But it's always good to have different perspectives. We do have discussions in this committee, and that's important. But has never been anybody in our committee that has ruled with an iron fist. Nobody in this group, in our past group, was a Casper milquetoast. They were more than competent at being able to say, no. And that's important. So, as John said, it's very important that we have this clear delineation. I do think we need to assign committees. The committees that you, I'm sorry, Sue?
Oh, well, we didn't vote.
Oh, okay. We'll go back to the vote. All in favor of Tom's motion, say aye.
Aye.
All against? That being the case, motion passes. Now, setting the committees, we have 3 committees. One is the Board of Selectmen, one is the high school, and one is Center Woods Middle School.
CIP.
That's, okay. But CIP, you also double on CIP. CIP is different from that. You don't just take CIP, you're also on something else.
Well, he doesn't.
but we double on that. So who is on CIP this year?
Well, there was a number of people, that Tom was there this morning, Don was there this morning, Keith and I, we did it last year.
Okay. CIP, the more ears, the better. That's a good thing.
What is your abbreviation? CIP is abbreviation for?
CIP is a capital improvements
Okay.
program. It's
Okay.
like a long range, 6 years to 10 years out in the town, starting this year, and with major procurements such as plow trucks. And the department heads come and present to a committee of 5. Jack Giblin chairs it, Stu Richmond's the vice chair. They met this morning, that was the first meeting they had.
Okay.
And they'll meet like weekly for the next.
That's 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, they don't meet next week, but then they meet like weekly after that on Tuesday mornings. And I'm retired now, so it's easy for me to attend those.
In the morning,
8:30.
8:30.
Thank you.
They meet, yeah, the next meeting is 8:30 here on September 11th. They skip a week. But what I try to do with that is compile what's come, give you a, sort of like the headlights view. When I bring back to the committee, say, here's CIP, let me backtrack, CIP will come in, Jack Giblin, the chairman, gives a presentation to our committee. Once they go through their review, and they present it to the planning board, and they bring it to us, and say, this is what's coming forward for major purchases, potentially this year and out years. In the meantime, as that's developed, I try to put out emails to everybody on the committee, say, here's what they're discussing, so you kind of don't hear it for the first time when Jack Giblin comes in.
Just in addition, that the CIP is specifically to town.
Right,
And not
nothing to do with
schools.
schools,
Correct.
correct.
Right.
Correct.
Laurie, the Center Woods School, is that also with Center Woods?
Center Woods and middle school are
Middle school
together.
together.
And then John Stark is its own
Own-
entity. The
okay,
first
I thought
year
so.
and a half I did this, I
thought so.
couldn't figure that out.
It's confusing.
Really? And the budgets are done totally different too, so it gets really interesting. So you have 3 different budgets. So first, what we need to do is with 13 people, we need to split people as close to evenly as possible to handle each of these. So we need 4 for the Board of Selectmen, 4 for Center Woods Middle School, and 4 for the high school. Neil traditionally takes the high school. Cover wherever I need to. So Tom, let's start with James. Do you have, I love the expression. Do you have a certain,
Expertise.
yes, do you like the middle school grade schools? Do you prefer the high school, or do you get excited about the town?
Given those choices, I guess I would choose the town.
Okay. Their meetings, just so we're clear, their meetings are on Monday nights. And they start at 6:30 if they're in non-publics. So it's always very important to watch, but they're going to be going to every Monday night. It's very important that you follow those meetings, that you go to them. There's going to be 3 other people doing it, and you will be one of the people that we will be looking at, that you will say, gee, Chairman so-and-so, this is what we're hearing, this is what we're seeing. It's not fully fleshed out yet, but these are things for us to start thinking about. Dennis, where's your interest?
The town.
Okay. Tom?
I was gonna say the same. but, I would like to attend some of the school meetings as well, to get a broader point of view, broader knowledge. And I have some school familiarity too, because of my career.
Were you a teacher or principal?
Both,
Okay,
teacher for about 20 years.
okay. And one thing about these committees, as Tom brought up, he'd like to be attended. You're welcome to attend anything. Posting sometimes for the middle school Center Woods is a little more difficult than the high school. And you're going to have to watch those postings closely because they change. And some of their meetings are during the day, in the middle of the afternoon, which is unusual, whereas, the high school is at night, Board of Selectmen is at night, but the middle school does have meetings during the day. And sometimes, they have their workshops during the day, so you have to be able to adjust with some of that. So you want to do Town?
I'd like to, yes, but like Bill, if they have a daytime meeting, regardless of which it is, I have the flexibility to go to those. because, Unfortunately, retired.
Right, and the way we pretty much track these meetings is you're tracking them on the school website. We traditionally, because we don't always get notification, they did change a meeting last year, we didn't get notification in time to us. So if we have to track those websites, that's very important that you watch those school websites. Where do you want to be, Donna?
The schools.
Which school?
I'm sorry, center and middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would my I guess choice would be center and middle. I go to the school board meetings most of the time anyways.
Excellent. How about you, Ellen?
Center and middle school and or town.
Okay. So we've got 3 for the center middle school so far, 2 for the town, 3 for the town. Where would you like to go?
I was originally thinking the elementary middle schools. I don't know about the scheduled meetings. I think it might be a challenge to get to the daytime ones. So possibly John Stark would be fine, or the town. I'm interested in helping wherever I can.
Okay, we have nobody on John Stark.
Okay.
Neil, but he's sort of not here.
He's a ghost.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, anybody that has been on the committees will always be happy to help you, because we've all satellited with those. Greg, where do you want to be?
Back where I've been for 3 years with the town.
Okay, so
And I
we've
would
got 4
Work
town.
with those two guys.
You are the town hats. Get to know your phone numbers, your emails, text, whatever you do in case one of you has a question. I'm missing this meeting, by the way. What did you hear? It's good to communicate, because we're going to be looking at the 4 of you to talk to us. Keith?
I'll do the high school, the Sushi just now, schools.
Sue, you're Centerwoods? Or where do you want to be?
I'd like to do the Weare school.
Okay, so we have 4 for the, and again, exchange information, that's important.
I can do the high school so that there's not.
No, this will make 4, that's not a problem.
Okay.
That's no problem at all. It doesn't prevent anybody else from attending. But, Bill, are you going anywhere else?
My brother's is this stuff.
Okay,
I do
you're busy
CIP.
enough there.
I do the CIP, but I can also, John Stark or something.
I will be on
Wait,
John
right.
Stark, but you will, I traditionally go to all the meetings just because I am by nature curious. And there's nothing wrong with going to more than one meeting.
Sure, I got that.
Do you ever, as a finance committee, send out like an email to all of us, like so that we know what all the meetings are? So that, like, say he's on, John Stark, he sends them an email to all of us saying, hey, John Stark has a meeting X date, or they changed X date, so that if I wanted to go to John Stark, I'm not having to go search to figure out when it is.
I don't traditionally do that. What I do sometimes is in our minutes, when we get into the season, I'll start listing administrative section. I'll just say, here's a reminder in our minutes that says, here's the dates. But if you're on that school, if you got those schools to monitor, right on the school website.
It's
go
your
on
job
it.
to keep an eye on what's
Well,
going
no,
on.
I meant more of like the other meetings that, like you're saying you attend as many meetings as possible. Like if I wanted to go to the Board of Selectmen, but I'm not on that,
It's- a lot of
subcommittee.
this committee is about knowing when your meetings are and following the other meetings. One thing about Bill's job is there's only so much you can ask.
Well, no, I was just asking, like,
Right.
I would be fine with, like, doing the email or something. I was just asking if that was
Okay.
something that we did already, or if, like,
No, it's
I
not
could
something we
spearhead to do
traditionally
it
do.
so everyone
Oh.
kind of knows where everything is.
Bill, it's up to you.
Oh, that's fine.
He's like, whatever, take
No,
my
yeah.
word.
Happy
And
to
I'm
have
sorry, were you
somebody
asking
do
me
that.
my name?
Yeah, I was, because
It's okay.
I got everybody said their name, and I got a list of 11 names, but I'm confused now.
Who else is on the
I'm
Ladies.
Megan Thelen, T as in Tom, Helllen.
Okay, and you were for Centerwoods?
Yes,
and
correct.
middle school.
Yes.
And
Ellen.
Sue,
Tammy.
Tammy,
Tammi.
yeah.
Hagman. Hagma.
Which one, John Stark or
John Stark.
John Stark? Okay, got it. Okay.
Any other questions there? Okay, the one other question we do have is trying to pick a meeting night. Neil has planning board
Thursday.
Thursday.
every Thursday. What's the meeting date?
It's, second and fourth Thursdays.
Okay, Bill, can you keep track of that? I am on
So,
conservation. Naomi,
second Wednesday.
thank you. Anybody else on any other committees we need to work around? Tom, are you on anything else?
Southern New Hampshire planning, but that doesn't really, they meet in Manchester, so.
Okay, so the next, go ahead, Sue.
First and third Thursdays.
Okay, Thursdays.
First and third Thursdays.
I believe that this room is most available on Wednesdays.
Well, it's looking, unless anybody's got a
When are the school board meetings?
who's got the,
I don't remember the high school. Who told me that one? When is it, are the school board meetings? Okay.
Tuesday.
In the high school? I don't know.
Once a month.
Yeah, once a month, I know that part.
Yeah.
Throw a dart. Yeah,
That's a
you
website.
have the clever phone.
That's
I have
it.
the color phone, but I'm on Weare's site. I hate the SEO site.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
Tuesday's the when this show start? Tuesdays don't work for the basketball lecture.
Yeah, I don't, that's strictly a selfish reason, but.
Well, since you're taking the minutes, it's really important that we have you here.
I think the Weare Middle School,
Just saying.
doesn't Center Woods meet on Tuesdays? I don't remember what day the first, second,
The next Center Woods one is the 18th. I'm trying to find John Stark's. It says monthly at 6:30 p.m., but it doesn't say what day of the week.
Welcome to the world of finance committee and coordinating meetings.
When's the next one for school?
The next school one is September 18th
How are you
at
doing
6 p.m.
navigating there?
Their
Or
site
Tuesday,
just
September
sucks.
18th.
This is the problem.
The other thing, when you're attending meetings,
No, takes a while.
a lot of budgets are online later on, but handouts that you get, you're going to need to bring them and tell us what they are, because we don't all have copies of them, and we depend on each other to get a hold of those. To John's point, when we have people missing meetings, and we've discussed, like, we'll say the high school's doing a budget or a heating system, and we're talking about it, and we've gone through the handouts, and somebody misses that meeting, it's next to impossible, the next meeting we have, to go over all that again. And it's important that we have those handouts, and if you can't find them, will be on the websites eventually.
So I was looking at John Stark's meetings from last year,
Yes.
and they seem to jump around.
Yes.
They have some Friday, some Thursday, some Wednesday. I can't find when their next meeting is. I don't know, maybe they haven't announced it. But at least looking at their meeting minutes from last year, they jump around.
Which is why we have 4 people on these meetings, so that should something creative happen with a meeting, particularly with the schools, we at least can have 2 people hear from the schools and 2 people doing whatever they do. And that's very important. And if you're willing to handle tracking down all those wonderful meetings,
I can try my best.
that
I
would be
won't
awesome.
guarantee it, but I can try my best.
Megan, can I just offer you a suggestion? If you talk to Sharon at the elementary school, because she has to know when she's to submit her payable and payroll. So she would know when they meet so they could pay the bills.
John
Yeah.
Stark?
She would have both.
Okay,
Check with her first.
okay. I can do that. I'll go hunt her down.
So, do we think Wednesday's gonna work for everybody? Is there anybody that can't make Wednesdays work? Yes, no?
It's a harder day. How often do we meet? Once a month?
We start out with once a month. And as October comes and the Board of Selectmen sets the tax rate, then, and they start figuring out what they can or cannot apply to all that, then as we move into November, they're starting to have a lot more meetings with the department heads. We've already heard from CIP. So that's when we start moving a little more closely. December, we usually have 2 meetings. It's January where we really start crunching, and we will have more than 2 or 3 meetings in a month. That's not unusual. One thing about our previous committee is nobody's big on living here and having meetings. It's pretty much, let's get it done, talk about it, but then let's not stay here all night. So we try not to go, we've only had a couple meetings that hit 10, we're usually out by 9. We try to be as efficient as possible. Once we hit the end of January, going into February, it gets a lot more tight, because we're having to deal with all 3 coming. The schools come in traditionally late with their budgets. You know, the town moves fairly on a good timeline for us, but then the schools suddenly, you know, you've got 2 more weeks before everything has to be in, and suddenly the schools come in. That makes it more difficult, and that's when those meetings, we start doubling up on meetings, because you're wrestling with more things. And that's when more comes into, well, we really thought this budget was great, but now we're dealing with these 2, and oh my God, what are we coming in with a tax rate? Is this reasonable? And that's where all that gnashing of trying to make things work for everybody becomes a very interesting set of dynamics. Those take more time. And that's where your big push is, and that's where we traditionally have not had a full complement of people here, and that's where we need you. Especially when we're rolling into deliberative session. We should not roll in as 5 people as a committee. It really helps to have more than a few people there. Traditionally, the chair stands up and does whatever they do and reads off what the thing is and explains why we're doing what we're doing. But certainly, as finance committee people, when we address as finance, we're speaking for the committee, and we've had those discussions here. What we say as a person outside as us is separate person, and that is your freedom of speech. So those 2 things we always have to make sure we're very clear on. Any questions? So now we need to look at calendars coming up. When do we want to meet in September? Keith, do you know when Neil's coming back?
No, but I believe he's going to be back by 11th. So probably 8th or 9th, I would guess, of September, but I'm just guessing.
You said he'll be back by the 11th.
So if you do it after the middle of September, you're probably okay. Maybe that 4th week, 3rd week, week of the 17th. Or the 24th.
I'm looking at, if we're looking at Wednesday, unless I'm on the wrong calendar, is it not the 19th on a Wednesday?
The Wednesday's 19th to 26th, yeah.
Does that work for everybody?
I'm gonna be out of, I'm gonna be gone for the month of September. I'm going
Okay.
from September 11th to October 3rd. I'm gonna be in Oregon visiting
You're
my daughter.
picking up where Neil left off.
I'm doing absentee ballots.
As long as you're back for December, that's really important.
19th September, 19th.
And you will find that the meetings may move. Yes.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
September 19th is the school open house at Center Woods. So I will just put it out there that I don't know if I will be here,
Okay.
because
So
I
the
try to
26th.
be involved as much as possible with my
The
kids.
26th.
Do you like the 26th?
That
Is
would
a
be
nice day?
preferable, yes. I just put that in my calendar today, so I'm glad I did.
And you will find our meetings, people have asked us, why do you not have a set meeting date like the planning board or the zoning board? It's exactly because of this, because, okay, the 26th is working really well now, but it may not really work out in October, and we move. Our meetings move, and as we get into January, we're going to have more meetings, so there is no consistent date. That's what this committee is all about. You know, we're good.
At 7 o'clock?
Yes,
The main thing is that we always have a quorum.
yes.
So we don't waste any. A critical time for everybody, as many people as possible, making recommendations. Schools, when we're actually voting, making a recommendation. Blurbs, comments that support, justify.
I think that
No, go ahead.
the being as consistent as possible on the day of the week is important, because when we're talking about posting meetings and so forth, people know, normally finance committee is gonna be on Wednesday. Normally, the planning board. unless it's
That
just-
works really good that for when we're talking, we try to stay on the Wednesdays,
Yeah.
but once we start rolling into the January and February, it's more than 1 week at a time, and
Sometimes it's a couple days a week.
and that's just the way that it rolls out because of the amount of information we're handling, and we're juggling 4 organizations. And those 4 organizations, while they have their own little meetings, we're trying to combine all of them in one fell swoop, and that gets to be a real interesting thing. But we try to do that, Tom, and you're gonna enjoy this. So, okay, we're set for the 26th at 7 PM.
So,
Go ahead, Dennis.
seeing, Bill, you took down everybody's information, right?
Yep.
Would it be best if, put together an email with everybody's contact
He
information
will,
on
that's
there?
what he has it for, and
That's why I
every,
took it down, Dennis. Yeah, I'm gonna put it out, so everybody has everybody's email
It'd just be
address,
easier, then that
Yes.
way we
Phone
can,
number.
yes.
email address, phone number, and name, so everybody has that. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna put that out the next 2 days, within 2 days. It'll be out there.
He's really good about
I'll
that.
expect it by Friday, is that what you're saying? Is that like 7 AM or is that?
So for the school one, are you willing, that's why I did that, are you willing to shoot out a message?
Yeah,
Um,
and just let you guys know what, yeah.
no,
Because
that-
we're part of the
that-
school.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you
Yeah,
probably
I can do
want
that,
a
yeah,
public
yeah.
page, right?
My
Private.
hope
You
is,
can call me.
yeah,
Yeah.
my hope is that
What
I'd
you
be
will
able to
see
like
coming forward in the
figure out when the
next
board of selectmen is and
couple
everything and just send
weeks.
out.
If I don't,
is I will be
if you call
talking
me
to Beth.
and I don't go right back
Rousseau.
to you, it's because I'm on the school bus, because I do special meetings.
Thank you.
For van.
About
That's
getting
I can just leave a
an
message or
email
something.
on
Okay.
where the budget stands
don't worry.
currently, where we are, what was done last year and the year before, and I will have that email
Oh,
to
really?
all of you so that you have a history to start looking at, so that you can raise questions at the meeting in September of, okay, what are we
Bet they
looking
can't
at?
see
How
we
did
see
we
you.
get here?
Yeah, the minutes of that.
Where are we now? And it gives you a way to start getting familiar with the reports. The schools, they are online, but I'm going to be talking to Lorraine to see if there's a way I can get it consolidated and sent so we have a couple years to look at, because the people who have the schools, getting a handle, as Sue knows very well, getting a handle on those budgets, you probably know, as an accountant, it's probably easier for you, but Sue was on the school board. It requires knowing where to look and to try and figure out how they do things. It's just different from the town, so we want to try and get reports earlier to you of what's been done in the past, so at least you look at it and say, I've seen you. Not sure what you said, but at least I know, so that when you're at a meeting, and you can, at the school, at high school, we are able to actually ask questions now and they will talk to us. Not working at that level with the junior high, middle school, grade school yet at their meetings. But, so you know what you can ask at public comment and start getting a dialogue going so that they know what we're looking for, and they can come back to us and say, okay, they're asking questions here, to start trying to formulate some of those things. And certainly, you know, those of you that have been involved in the field, Tom, Ellen, you know, don't be afraid to look and ask questions. After those meetings, you certainly can go and talk to those people. There's no reason you can't. You know, dialogue is good. Dialogue's very good. Now, does anybody have any questions?
No, I just have, if anybody wants it, I just got a copy of the finance committee ordinance. It's right on the website for the town, and it just gives you our direction, how many members, and what our job is. Move to the
Sure.
committee if you want a copy, I'll give it to you.
Sure, please.
Go ahead and pass them around. It never hurts to read these things.
It's about 10 copies there.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other business they'd like to bring forward?
In the past, have there ever been alternates, so that there's a attrition? The reason I asked that specifically was because it was a person who was going to join but couldn't make it, other than me.
That would go to John Foss. He is thinking tentatively of alternates. but he was waiting to see who showed up here, so he's now set the committee. And as,
I think she's already given him his name. So,
but
You talking
again,
with Chris?
yeah.
so that would be run through John. And again, the whole object of here is to weigh the needs versus the tax impact to what the taxpayers can afford. That's interesting. We work very hard to try and keep the personal out. We try to keep the politics out. And we try to do better at communication every year. And transparency for us is crucial. The one thing with public comment, we have in the past had public comment where, and with the Board of Selectmen, we try not to engage in too much dialogue back and forth because we have a job to do. And we are happy to explain what we're doing while we're doing it. But if everybody questioned the Board of Selectmen and they gave an answer to every person, they would never get out of their meeting. It does come down to, been there, done that. So it's very important that while we welcome the public, they too have to do some homework. You cannot, Tom knows this, you know this. It is impossible to have somebody want to go through everything we're doing and want us to justify it if they are not following and aware, and that's where some people do not always understand. Yes, Dennis?
I was just reading the first lines, essentially, of this document, and it says no more than 13 members, so I would imagine an alternate would be considered a member, and we already have 13. I would imagine that would put us over the amount. I mean, we probably have to vote to do a change in
The only way you can have
bylaws, I would
an
imagine,
alternate here
from what
is
I'm
if
reading.
somebody drops off the committee. If we go through, as John alluded to earlier,
Yeah.
we'll say that for whatever reason, I'm not showing up to meetings, whether it's the town meeting that I've taken John Stark. If I'm not doing my job at John Stark, and it's for whatever reason, if I haven't handled 2 or 3 of those meetings, and I don't always that's already a problem for us because you're not doing your job. So we're not gonna have alternates coming in just because I'm out tonight, so-and-so showing up. No, that's not how that's going to work.
Right. When the top, it states as well in that last line that the town moderator may remove or replace members.
Right, as
For-
the committee can also do, if you look at our bylaws. You know, if there's a real snafu, they can actually, as a committee, sit down and say, Mickey Mouse committed, we'll say, a bank robbery, and we don't feel it's good to have them on our committee. But by and large, we tend to roll with things.
Yeah, I was just basically going back to what you were stating, that John, that would be something for John, but really it's in the bylaws already.
Right,
It's pretty clear. I don't think he could add an alternate without.
no. He'd be talking to us, and we have very clear communication with John. You know, he does a good job. Any other questions? Move to adjourn?
Second.
I do not know how to turn the television off.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tom, can you disconnect us?
One button, there's
Yeah.
a power strip behind Bill there.
You learn not to sit there, Bill.
The other side.
On the other side.
Way on the other side.
Open up the top.
Exactly.
Bill,
I'm trying to help you out here.
Bill, there's a thing on top.